On the outskirts of Macon, Georgia, there is an old, eerily silent cemetery, what the locals call Bonnywood. Its name is nowhere on official maps, but among the surrounding residents, it is feared as if the place were not part of the earth, but a gateway to another world. The most famous feature of the cemetery was a gate made of rusted iron. People called it the Rusted Gate. It was said that behind it there was a path that not only heard the footsteps of the living, but also remembered them. One cold evening, 28-year-old Amber Laker, a freelance photographer, was working on a documentary project about mysterious places in Georgia. She was intrigued by the story of Bonnywood Cemetery. At first, she ignored what she had heard, but when she found an old diary from 1890 in a local library in which an unknown person had written scary things about the cemetery, Amber's curiosity became uncontrollable. The diary wrote, "The rusted gate is never closed. Even if it is closed, it opens by itself at midnight. Whoever goes through this gate does not return and remains the same as he went, because behind this gate there are they, those who do not leave the living." Amber put the diary in her bag and decided to go to the cemetery the next day. In the evening, she took her car and approached the cemetery. There was a strange smell in the air outside the cemetery, like the smell of burning fire, but there was no fire anywhere around. The branches of the trees were bent down by some unknown weight, and the birds were silent. Amber took a deep breath and prepared her camera. At the entrance to the cemetery stood the same famous rusted gate of rusty iron. There were old handprints everywhere, as if someone had pushed the door open repeatedly from the inside. Amber's steps began to move forward on their own. When she pushed the door slightly, it immediately creaked open. The atmosphere inside was even more terrifying. The grass was long, the graves were crooked, and the old marble slabs were half buried in the dirt. But the strangest thing was that a faint whisper was echoing in the cemetery. A continuous, very faint and mysterious whisper, as if many people were talking at the same time. Amber turned on the camera and moved forward. She was taking pictures when suddenly she heard the loud bang of the door closing from behind. Amber turned around in shock. The door had closed. "Wind pressure," she explained to herself. Amber reached the inner part of the cemetery. There was an old tomb with rusty links on the door, and a broken line had formed on the ground below, as if something had been dragged. She zoomed in on the camera screen. The line was fresh blood. Amber felt a shiver. As she moved forward, she suddenly heard a woman's scream in the air from afar, very faint but extremely painful. Her heart raced, and she began to chase the sound, because it could be great footage for her documentary. The sound was towards the back of the cemetery. As Amber moved forward, the whispers grew louder. Now she could hear the words clearly. "Go back. This is our place. The door is open." Amber looked around nervously, but there was no one in sight. She moved forward and reached a very old grave, the inscription of which was half broken. The name on it was erased, as if someone had deliberately scratched it away. On the edge of the grave, the imprint of a hand was pressed deep into the dirt. A human hand. And fresh. Amber raised her camera with trembling hands. As soon as she tried to take a photo, the camera suddenly turned off. The battery was full, but it stopped working. In the meantime, she heard the same scream again, this time very close. Amber backed away, her heart beating fast. She decided that she had to get out of here now. She ran back to the door, but when she reached the rusted gate, the door was now completely locked. There were 2 new iron chains on it that weren't there before. Amber groaned and pushed the door open, but it didn't open. She suddenly heard footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, but there was no one there. The footsteps stopped, and then a cold breath passed behind her. "You shouldn't have come," a heavy, angry voice said. Amber's steps automatically retreated. She reached the middle of the cemetery, where the oldest oak tree stood. Someone had carved a sentence in deep scratches on its trunk. "Whoever crosses the rusted gate loses his name." Suddenly, a shadow appeared from behind the tree. Tall, his face completely blurred, as if the smoke had melted into some form. He reached out to Amber, his fingers longer and crooked than his bones. Amber screamed and ran to the side. She ran into the darkness, branches cutting her face, the ground shaking beneath her feet. Then, suddenly, reaching a place, she saw that the ground in the middle of the cemetery was cracked, as if there was a ditch inside, and dozens of hands were coming out of this ditch. Human hands, rotten, stuck in the dirt, and they were all raised upwards, as if waiting to be grabbed by someone. Amber trembled with fear. But before she could turn back, the same blurry shadow stood in front of her again. Its voice was like a voice echoing inside the grave. "We need more names. You came leaving your name behind. Now you are also part of Bonnywood." Amber wanted to scream and retreat, but her feet stuck to the ground. as if the dirt was pulling her in. She wanted to scream loudly, but no sound came out. The blurry shadow came closer to her. It placed its long, cold hands on her neck. "Your story will not end. We will protect it forever." The ground began to crack more under her feet. The ditch was now pulling her legs towards it. Amber swung her hand upwards with all her might, as if asking for help from an invisible being. She looked at the rusted gate one last time and felt the door slowly open on its own, as if the cemetery was giving her permission. But it was too late. The ditch pulled her inside. The cemetery fell silent again. The whispers stopped. 2 days later, Amber's car was found outside the cemetery, but Amber was not. Her camera had only one picture half damaged, half blurry. In the picture, the rusted gate was open, and behind it stood a woman with a completely black face. People say that even today, at night, a new voice whispers behind the rusted gate, a voice that has forgotten its name. Amber's voice.